On the Pfaff Creative 1.5 sewing machine, the reverse button can be used in two different ways. And some people kind of get confused, like, well, which way do I use? So let me show you the way to think about this, and then you can pick which way works best for you. So when you're sewing, obviously you usually want to sew and then back up a few stitches so the threads are secure. So if you're sewing, and while you're sewing, you touch it and hold it, it will go back until you release it. Then you can stop, use the thread snips, and you'll have a very nice secured edge. Now, that being said, if you are sewing and you stop and you touch the reverse button, you're going to get a little light indicator here. That means that if that light is on, if you sew, it will just sew backwards without you holding the button. So that means to get it to sew forward again, you need to touch the reverse button to turn off the light, and now it will go forward for you. So depending on when you touch the button, if you're sewing or not sewing, that's when you get the two different uses. So if you kind of can get used to just touching and holding it while you're sewing, I think that's probably going to give you what you're expecting. But if you do touch it and the light comes on, you're going to be sewing backwards. Speaking of sewing backwards, stitch number 3, as you see up on the top here, is actually a stitch that sews backwards. So if you need a stitch that you just want to have it go backwards, that's what stitch number 3 is. And it's indicated by the arrow showing you in the up position and not the down position. So I'm going to go back to stitch number 1. Now there is other ways to get locking stitches, and the tie-off feature here is also one way to get not just a full 5-6 stitches backwards, but more of a smaller, petite locking stitch, where as I pushed the tie-off button, it just went back, forth, and gave me this result instead of a longer locking stitch based on how long I held it. So check out our tie-off menu option for the button, and if you could click right here in this upper right corner with that little eye, that'll take you to that video. So just kind of watch for that button. If you see the light on, it's going to sew backwards.